I'm really pleased to welcome Kevin Mackenzie back to Exit 425 for the third time. It's been a minute since we spoke to him during the municipal election in 2022 when he presented himself as a trustee candidate for Clarington. Not quite so long since the federal by-election for Durham when Kevin was the Green Party candidate. But as it is midterm for so many of our governors right now, and we have checked in with one of Kevin's public school board colleagues, we are due for a chat with one of our Catholic school board trustees for Clarington, and also the current chair of the Board of Trustees for the Peterborough, Victoria, Northumberland, and Clarington Catholic District School Board, which we're just going to refer to as the PVNC going forward today. Kevin, welcome back to Exit 425, and thank you for meeting me here.
Thanks very much, Steve. I appreciate that. I definitely need a big business card with that job title.
Just really long at the bottom side. Okay, there you go. What is the difference in the role between the Director of Education and the Chair of the Board of Trustees? Who's the boss?
Well, thank you again for having me on. It's always great to stop by Exit 425. And thanks for this question. And I think there is typically a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to this question, and it gets to the heart of what we do as trustees. I think the biggest misunderstanding from constituents is either this is a full-time, six-figure-a-year salary, and both are far from reality. All Ontario trustees make the same, and that's $5,900 per year, plus an enrollment that can vary widely depending on the size of the board, but it is a part-time position. And some trustees like me have full-time jobs. Myself is in sales, while others are retired. Another misconception is that both the public have, and often new trustees also have this misconception, is that we can just snap our fingers and make things happen. And, sort of like with a magic wand or something. But again, that is another mistaken belief. Finally, an individual trustee has no power at all. The power comes from the Board of Trustees as a whole when we vote or set direction or policy or that sort of thing. In the simplest of terms, when you ask who's the boss, well, the trustees are here to govern by helping set priorities and helping the board's strategic direction. The director, however, is responsible for ensuring those priorities happen through day-to-day operational management of the board. In our case, PVNC Catholic, that's how I abbreviate it, PVNC Catholic, as opposed to all the extra letters there. PVNC Catholic, that it's a $211 million a year operation that oversees 36, soon to be 37 schools, serving about 15,000 students and employing more than 2,300 people. Well, the director is responsible for board operations. The Board of Trustees sits in a governance role, ensuring that the school board's directional policies meet the needs of our students and families and expectations set out by the Ministry of Education, that policies and procedures align with the board's stated vision, mission, and strategic priorities, that the director and his team are allocating funding to meet areas of need in a fair and equitable manner. In our case, it's also to ensure that the Catholic values and social teachings remain at the forefront of everything that we do in a Catholic school board. The Board of Trustees also has the important responsibility of hiring the Director of Education, our one and only employee, and reviewing their performance on an annual basis. Of course, individual trustees also serve their constituents, helping to provide information to the public and bring issues or concerns raised by constituents to the attention of the board staff.
So ultimately, is it the Board of Trustees that make the decision, and then it's up to the director to make sure it happens? Is that a fair assessment?
In a broad sense, yes. We in a boardroom during a board meeting, if something could just pop up in conversation, and we all of a sudden realize this is important, or we'd like more information on it. So any trustee, not just the chair, could push forward a motion and say, hey, we would like a report done, and we're talking to the director at this point. We'd like a report done on X, Y, and Z, and we'd like this report to highlight this, so that maybe we just need the information, or maybe it's part of a broader picture where we want to make a decision on something else. And so the director, then being our one and only employee, if that motion passes, he will then set the ball rolling and direct who he needs to direct to get that report in our hands at the time that we request it, and then it goes from there.
Executive compensation is a big deal, and the executive in a school board, unlike the trustees, make what has to be considered a lot of money. And the directors, about in PVNC Catholic, makes about $245,000 a year, which, like other trustee or other directors throughout the province, have seen substantial increase over the last couple of years, because of apparently a previous freeze on their salaries. And then the senior admin superintendents, they make usually around $200,000 a year as well. Do they work pretty well in synchronicity? Is there a good connection between director and superintendent, do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely make more than the $5,900, that's for sure. But as previously mentioned, the role of the Board of Trustees is to ensure the director is effectively setting directional policy and operational procedures in the best interest of students and staff. So at every board meeting, as trustees get to see firsthand how the senior team works together, and we have the opportunity to ask those tough questions and hold the director and superintendents accountable for their areas in their individual portfolios. Ultimately, the Board of Trustees has to approve the board's multi-year strategic plan, as well as directional policies and the annual operational budget. And throughout that process, we are asking questions and providing input and ensuring that the senior team is responsive to our feedback, as I just mentioned about asking for certain report or information. And with respect to executive compensation, we take our lead from provincial frameworks established with the help of our Provincial Trustee Association, and we ensure our executive compensation is aligned with similar sized school boards, so that we can attract and retain senior leaders with the dynamic skills and talents necessary to ensure PVNC Catholic continues to successfully serve our students, families, and communities.
Onto a different part of that organizational structure then. Where is PVNC Catholic in terms of settling contracts that we hear so much about, or heard so much about, beginning in 2022 with educational workers? Do contracts take a long time to settle out? And was this year, I think it's safer to say this round, any better or worse than it's been?
Well, that's a great question. Any year that we can settle a collective agreement without prolonged labor strife is a good year. Well, much of the big ticket items are negotiated at the central bargaining table. Our board staff and union leaders spend hours upon hours negotiating local terms that are very important to our QP support staff and our WECTA teaching staff. And we're grateful to have both collective agreements signed during the last school year. And it's a testament to a lot of the hard work on both sides of the bargaining table. Of course, there's no sitting on laurels, as there's only a few years away before the next contract talks, and the whole process starts all over again.
And that's an awkward position for a trustee, because you're there for to make the system work as well as possible. And for that to happen, you have to have the teachers in teaching and all the employee groups in doing their thing. But then at the same time, you're management. So you've got to get that job done, and you've got to do it as fiscally responsibly as possible. So that must be difficult, knowing that your kids are at home, and they, for the most part, would love their teacher and look forward to school every day. And, you're in that difficult situation of sorting out professional contracts. Any thoughts?
Well, it can be difficult because as a parent, I know it's I've got two kids, one in elementary, one in high school, and that can be difficult when that kind of thing happens. But I also think to myself, the rest of the time the contract is active, we all work fantastic together, and I know that this is just a little bump in the road, just like any other relationship has, and it's a good relationship. And so I know that they want to get back to work, and we want them to get back to work. So I know and the trustee's job ultimately is to ensure student achievement. And well, they can't achieve anything if they're at home. And so I want to make sure that that happens, and so I'm there to help any way that I can. And I just know that it will work out in the end because it always does, and we have a great relationship with our union. So I have lots of confidence when that happens.
Awesome. You already kind of alluded to this question that I was going to ask when you celebrated number 37. You have a new school that's been committed to for Bowmanville. Yay, exactly. How did you get that done, and why is the school being built there? And do trustees have a role to play in getting schools built in Ontario?
Well, this is very exciting news, and thank you so much for asking about this. I can't stop talking about it enough. It's just the greatest news for Clarington, Steve. When you think of a new school being built, you often think about the construction process and the bricks and the mortar of the building and the investment that goes into it, and all those are important considerations. But more importantly, we're starting a school community from scratch, and that's a blessing. We haven't had a new school since 2008. So we just think of the generations of students and staff and families who will be benefit from this Catholic school in North Bowmanville, and all the memories that will begin to soon start as the doors open in September 2026. To get back to your original question, building a school is a long-term planning process that can take 5 to 10 years and is dependent on many different factors. In fact, my first probably month as a trustee in 2018, I heard them talking about that, and being a still green trustee, and hearing about this new school, I'm like, oh, is that going to be in the spring or summer? We'll have a groundbreaking ceremony. And like, no, they'd been pushing for it for quite some time. And in fact, with the government thing, you can't have a crystal ball and give them a projection that we're going to need this school by this time. It's where you have to be in desperate need for a school, and it's you have to talk about overcrowding, and they want it full on day one that they open. They don't want 2 or 3 classes still yet to be filled, and we're still got some stragglers coming in. No, they want it absolutely full before they even discuss opening up a new school. So, but there's really no secret recipe. The Ministry of Education has a robust formula, and boards begin making a new business case for new builds years in advance. Our role as trustees, make sure that we're providing clear feedback from our communities to senior board officials, and also informing our constituents about the process. And since that 2018, I've been hearing from constituents in that area to say that St. Elizabeth was overcrowded, and it's why don't you just build a school? And that's another misconception about trustees that just wave that magic wand and poof, there's a new school. In the case of Bowmanville, it's a high growth area, and our local elementary school, particularly St. Elizabeth Catholic Elementary School, was just bursting with enrollment. So this new build will help meet that new growth and ease enrollment pressures in our other schools. We'll be conducting a review in the fall to determine the precise catchment area of the new school. Since becoming a school board trustee for Clarington residents in 2018, building that new Catholic school has been one of my top priorities because I hear directly from them. So it was a dream come true to take part in the groundbreaking ceremonies this past June. And it is certainly a long journey to get there. So 2 years ago, we were hearing about the ongoing pressures of St. Elizabeth. They were at about 175% capacity, which is, really is going to impact on learning and a lot of other things. And so I actually was the one that came up with the idea. I was just throwing stuff to the wall to see what would stick, and seeing that my eldest was in elementary school in around grade 7 or 8 at the time. I knew they were trying to help him get ready for high school. That's why I came up with the idea. Hey, what if we move the grade 7 and 8s over to St. Stephen's? And that would alleviate some, and so they can expand, the kindergarten to grade 6 student population, and they give them some breathing room, and it would give the opportunity for the St. Elizabeth kids that have moved over in grade 7 and 8 over to the St. Stephen's High School, that it'd give them an opportunity to really get their feet wet with what it's going to be like going to high school. And from that sort of what if scenario that I came up with after much consulting with experts, with third parties, with having town halls with the community, taking lots and lots of phone calls from the community, because I think a lot of them were just picturing a fresh out of grade 6 student walking the halls with a grade 12. That wasn't going to happen. Excuse me. What we did was we built essentially a separate school, and that's in a annex behind St. Stephen's. So it had several classrooms and separate washrooms, and locks to get in and out of the building. So very, very safe. And they were still St. Elizabeth. It was the St. Elizabeth annex at St. Stephen's. So they were still participating and will continue to participate at St. Elizabeth for different assemblies and other things that they're doing. They're not going to be, St. Stephen's quite yet. And so that brought that pressure that was projected to be at 203% of capacity if we did nothing for the 2023-2024 school year. And so by doing that, it still brought it down to, it was about 175 or 170% of capacity, but nowhere near 203. So we were able to, give us a little bit of breathing room, because we were still waiting on news on a new school. And so with my advocating and constant meetings with MPP Todd McCarthy, and I can't thank him, and former Minister of Education Stephen Lecce, and Premier Ford for granting us this school. And so it's I was calling him quite often, Todd McCarthy, and bugging him a little bit to see what's happening and give us updates and this sort of thing. And so I was asking him just around Christmas time, I'd really love a Christmas miracle. Can you give us this the go ahead? And he's like, I can't right now. And then fast forward a little bit into Easter. And he reminded me of that conversation and said, I can give you an Easter blessing, though. And so it was embargoed until a certain point, until Minister Lecce gave his blessing for us to make the announcement. But it was amazing to do so. So another approximately 500 students will call that new school home. We don't have a name quite yet. That's yet to come. Right around the time we talk about catchment areas, but that's the story with there. With there, and I'm just going to break for a moment and take a sip. So I still got more to say.
This must be one of the more satisfying parts of your role as being a trustee. And I've had the opportunity as a teacher and as an administrator to open new schools. And as an administrator, I was basically the second education staff hired for that building, and tremendous opportunity to welcome or to build a new culture and to create something that will last for a long time. So now that you've got a drink of water, and I'll let you carry on.
Thank you. So the advocating doesn't stop there. So moving away from exit 425 and moving a little bit further east down to Port Hope, I recently in June rather, I met with the MPP in Northumberland to discuss some issues that are happening at the schools in Northumberland and in Port Hope and Coburg areas, and advocating for some changes, something to help the students and the staff and the parents in those areas. So I'm hoping to have some good news in the future if my talks went well as we've got some tours coming up in the early fall with the MPP as well in those schools. And then finally, the advocating doesn't end locally or provincially either. Actually, I should talk about locally as well. So a lot of the schools that we have parks and playgrounds and this sort of thing behind the school, and it's on the property of a PVNC Catholic school. But that doesn't mean it's only for PVNC Catholic students to enjoy. And in fact, it doesn't, get locked up and put away at 3:30 when the bell rings or during the summer or on weekends. It's a shared space enjoyed by the entire community, not just students at PVNC Catholic. And so I thought to myself, well, why should we bear the burden of paying for the upkeep, maintenance, and new builds of these parks, because often it falls on the hands of the school councils, the parent councils. So I'll give you a quick example. My youngest son, his school has a nice swing set and a nice park area or little play area. I think about a decade ago it was built for the cost of $50,000. They raised that money through different initiatives. And so now today would probably be 3 times that amount. And just the wood chips alone, which are specifically designed to help for impact, a top up, not replacing, but a top up is about $6,000. That's a lot of money. And so, at first glance, you're like, well, I can buy a wood chipper for less than $6,000 and just, and Bob's your uncle, you got some wood chips. It's totally different. It's a special wood chips. And so that was my idea. Again, I threw it to the wall, but, that didn't stick once I found out there were special wood chips. And so I suggested that we reach out to all the communities in our board area, all the Peterborough, city of Peterborough, the Clarington municipal city. We suggested to reach out to all of them. Well, before we could really even do that in a formal way, I know Deputy Leader Granville Anderson, when I saw him at the groundbreaking ceremony, he said that he wanted some clarity exactly what we were talking about. And I said, I'm not expecting them to pay it all, but why should we? Because again, it's a joint use area. He liked that idea. He mentioned it in his remarks to the media. So I'm anxious to move forward with that and work with himself as well as other members of Clarington or other municipalities as well to help strengthen the community and put in new parks in the replace of ones that maybe need updating. Ours don't probably necessarily need updating, but the $6,000 worth of the wood chips that I was talking about would definitely be helpful if it only cost us $1,000 or $2,000 for that, and they came in with other things. And I also suggested maybe even having a company like Home Depot or something like that. They could put up some advertising. So we're going to look at the legalities of that particular thing if we can do that. But I'm ecstatic about the municipalities being able to help us. And finally, the advocating, as I was mentioning, doesn't end locally or provincially either. At the Committee of the Whole in February, I think it was February 12th, the Board of Trustees voted in favor of a motion to send all board area MPs, I think there's 5 of them, asking them for their support on a private members bill, C-322. And this bill seeks to create a national framework for school-based food programs. In the discussion, trustees acknowledged the increasing need for breakfast programs in schools. And in our letter in the members of Parliament on March 5th, we sent it, one paragraph, and I'll quote, as I'm sure you are aware, hungry children struggle to learn and play. Good nutrition is essential to their growth, development, and mental and physical well-being. The passing of this policy would be the first step to what would hopefully be a rollout of the National School Nutritious Meal Program, supported by the $200 million per year that the Canadian government promised in 2021. And so at the end of May, we received just one reply from all of the MPs, and that was from the Durham Riding's Jamil Javani. And that was the only reply we got from the MPs and of the areas that PVNC Catholic serves. His reply was frankly insulting to the hardworking families of Durham Riding, and most importantly, to the hungry students that could use his help. Now, I won't embarrass him by reading it, but I'll only say, Mr. Giovanni, do better. Now, here we are in August, and we sit and wait for the replies from the other MPs from that letter in hopes that one of them cares enough about hungry children going to school. So now it's time for another sip of water. I'll let you ask your next question.
Well, there's a lot in the media about violent situations in schools throughout the province and around the world. Like it's just not this area. And how the schools are handling these situations. What roles do the directors, superintendents, and trustees have in making it possible for principals and teachers to properly deal with these situations? In the public system, there is a manual that is used called the Leadership Framework for Education. And there is a role for principals and vice principals to minimize the distractions for teachers and by extension for students. How important is that for the students who are really there to learn?
I appreciate that question, and that hits home for me. We have seen a rise in behavioral issues coming out of COVID-19 pandemic, and I believe that's playing a large role in the increase in incidents that are being reported to schools. For us trustees, it's about really ensuring that we have the effective policies and procedures in place for support staff. It's up to the director and superintendents to operationalize those policies and those procedures. We're working really hard to what we can do and have done for the boards that are facing considerable budgetary pressures. So for trustees, we play an important role in advocating on behalf of the board for more funding to address this concern. We need to be able to place more support workers in our schools and provide more robust professional development to the staff to ensure that they are supported to meet these mental health challenges in our schools. And that's the message we continue to be sending to the Minister of Education.
In professional discussions or conferences that you would have with other trustees, is there any kind of time frame where it's anticipated the pandemic and the time away from school won't be used as a rationalization for some of the poor behavior we're seeing in schools?
Well, I don't think it's an excuse by any stretch of the imagination. That was a serious time, and kids were not exposed to their peers and or even kids that they did not know to create friendships and get that one-on-one, as opposed to being across the hall from them, or in a different area, having segmented and only being allowed in certain groups and not venturing out of that group for the fear of the of transmitting the COVID. So it's I think it had a huge play. I'm sure there's other factors that might be there, but I think that COVID is probably the biggest one. But we're looking at everything that might be an explanation, and we react quickly when it has to be, when we're talking about bullies or violence in schools.
The last 2 years, again, largely attributed to the shutdowns and pandemic. The last 2 years have seen a great deal of inflation. Aside from everything costing more, just flat out requiring more money, how is this impacting what's happening at PVNC Catholic?
Well, it's positive news recently in the news that the inflation has cooled and we're getting back to hopefully normal rates. But certainly coming out of the pandemic, inflation and supply management issues have certainly added to increased operating costs. I see that again. Excuse me. Sorry. I see that even with, as I mentioned about that, the park in the back of the school, $50,000 10 years ago, and it's probably $150,000 now. So we know our staff have also felt that pinch, and for staff, the new collective agreements will certainly address inflationary costs. We know too that families have been hit hard by inflationary costs. Again, I mentioned about the school breakfast program that we're advocating for, and our staff are always considerate of how that affects students in their classrooms. Our staff are big contributors each year as well to the United Way campaigns that we have in our communities. And I'm always amazed by the generosity of the schools that support a host of poverty reducing initiatives in their communities. As trustees, we continue to advocate for consistent funding for nutritional programs, as I mentioned, our schools, so that no student has to worry about access to nutritional food while at school. It's really hard to study and learn when you're hungry as well, Steve. We are pleased to see the announcement of the new national food program this spring, and we'll be following its implementation very closely.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin Mackenzie, for meeting me here at Exit 425. How can parents and families of PVNC Catholic students reach you to discuss their child's experience with PVNC Catholic?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at Kevin A. Mackenzie, and they can reach out to me by phone at 289-356-7838, or they can reach me at on the PVNC email at kmackenzie at PVNCDSB.on.ca. And and if you missed all that, you can certainly go on the PVNC Catholic website, click Meet the Trustees, and get all that information, as well as other trustee information as well.
And certainly I'll include all that on the video and as part of the information box for the audio podcast. And you're right, the navigation to your information on the PVNC Catholic website is excellent. So,
Great.
Kevin, thank you. Thank you once again for meeting me here at Exit 425. Thank you for listening to this episode of Exit 425. Please like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. Our mission is to provide substantial information and education that goes where you want, because it's where we live. Exit 425 is a production of Studio 38 Audio, copyright 2024. My name is Steve Ray. If you have any questions or would like more information about Exit 425, join our Exit 425 Facebook group, like the Facebook page, check out Instagram, Medium, LinkedIn, X, and TikTok, or email me at exit425-401@gmail.com. Exit 425. It's where we live.